Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly bump that I'm publishing on the weekend. I needed a break. It's been crazy. Has it not been crazy? There has been so much going on. I got home from Europe last week and my real job was just like, there's so much stuff happening. You know, I work in commercial real estate and my boss is selling and buying assets like crazy, and it's just like, there's just so much stuff. So I hope yours hasn't been bad, maybe busy, but hopefully not bad. Hopefully there's been a lot of activity and a lot of forward progress. You know, man, that Pluto-Sun opposition and the Pluto-Sun thing that happened in Cancer season, it really was the kickoff to a whole season of just significant change. It forced us to really be cruelly honest with ourselves. And now the issues are really coming to the surface and they're becoming more tangible. They're becoming more malleable, where we can actually do something with them. We can do something with this emotion. We can do something with the feelings. We can do something with the thoughts and the issues that have been kind of uprooted. And now we're really being pushed into this fast track of fixing the problem. As we make our way into Virgo season, it's going to be an interesting month for us to say, okay, let's hunker down. Let's not shy away from the issues. Let's make the change happen. Because if you want change in your life, you have to change your life. And Virgo is not an idle energy. And I know we're not there yet. And today's the eclipse, right? Or we just had, I don't even know when the eclipse was, August 11th, whether it was this morning or whether it's going to be tonight. We're having this eclipse. We're going through the motions. We are closing the door on the Leo-Aquarius axis, making our way. The nodes are going to make their way into the Capricorn-Cancer axis, so they're going to get highlighted even more. And we are making our way toward a greater level of understanding of really who we are and why we're here. So all the issues that we've had with our ego, all the issues that we've had with our place in humanity and really what we're doing and what the role is, it's all going to be, okay, now you know, and now you have to do something. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the cards. I got a couple that came out, fire and water. And, the Knight of Cups is all about following your heart. It is all about doing what you know and doing what you feel to be right. It may blow up in your face, as we see with the Knight of Wands reversed. But this is an instance of you never know until you try. It might work out. It might be everything that it was supposed to be. And that in and of itself is worth the risk. The astrological environment right now is so conducive to risk-taking. Mars still in a square with Uranus, Mars making its way back into Capricorn. We have this Pluto-Sun in conjunct going on with the eclipses going on. So there's a Pluto quality with the eclipses, which makes it so much more intense. We've got Chiron making its way back into Pisces. And we still have Neptune in Pisces, of course, which we can't forget, right? That is all about the return of Christ consciousness, all about the return to the oneness and understanding our place in the oneness, And the Knight of Wands, when he's reversed, he can be quite clumsy and a little bit haphazard. However, I will credit him with the ability to put it all out there. Put it all out there, see what happens. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, great. But at least you won't ever question what could have happened or what would have happened, because now you'll be dealing with what actually did happen. And there's going to be an openness to just whatever it is that's supposed to be, let's just let it be that. And if people are coming to you and acting rashly, or people are trying to get a hold of you, or people are projecting their stuff onto you, or, it's all a part of their journey, and it doesn't really have to afflict you. It doesn't have to affect you in a negative kind of way. It's important for you to remember, though, that it is their journey and it is a part of the lessons that they need to learn. And if you are the one going to someone or saying something that you need to say to someone and they don't respond or react or do whatever, it's a part of your journey. And this is a case of like no regrets, no excuses, and no regrets. Let's do what we got to do. Let's say what we got to say, because our soul is on a mission and we're feeling the pressure of accomplishing that mission a lot right now. I mean, it really is under the pressure cooker. It's like, you gotta, the devil, right? Hold on. All right, we got a whole bunch. Let me get all these out. Okay. Temperance, 3 of coins, reversed, 7 of coins, 5 of coins reversed, and justice. So when we're speaking about the devil, I had an interesting kind of meditation about the devil this morning and Saturn. Saturn and Pluto specifically. I feel like Pluto is so much more harsh than Saturn. But they operate in such totally different ways. Where Pluto is the actual desire of the soul, right? I think many people know that, right? That's what Pluto represents, the desire of the soul. It represents that sense of, I know what I need to do. And it's usually simple, right? The answer is always simple, like you know what you need to do. You might be like, oh, I don't want to do it because it really puts me on the line. I don't want to do it because it's hard, or it might hurt someone, or I don't want to do it because I don't know what the outcome is going to be. But at the end of the day, you know what you need to do. So once you come in contact with what I need to do, Saturn steps in and says, okay, well, I'll provide the path. I'll provide the opportunity. I'll provide the lessons that you need to learn. I'll show you the way. Saturn is a leader. He's a coach. He helps us walk over the hot coals. He is a motivator. Our internal darkness is a motivator. And I feel that the past month, many of us have been walking over the hot coals, taking really big risks, pushing ourselves to ungodly limits, emotional limits, spiritual limits. We have been forced into the cruelty of truth, right? I remember I told you in the last eclipse on June 27th, Pluto, Venus, right? Venus acting as the mirror, which she is, the hand mirror. Take a good look at yourself. And Pluto representing the truth bearer. Look at the cold, hard truth directly in the eye, and there's no denying. Like, the truth is the truth. And here's Saturn now coming out, making his way, and saying, let me show you, let me guide you. It's going to be hard. You're going to have to make major changes. You're going to have to make those decisions, and you're going to have to change your life. Unless you are someone who is absolutely walking in truth, and you are not living in a life of hypocrisy. Is Hippocratic? Is that even a word? In a hypocrite's kind of way. Not living a life of hypocrisy. We are in Mercury retrograde still. So 3 of coins coming out reversed. First of all, I think most of us are just really busy. Have you guys been driving around? I got home to Vegas and I'm like afraid to drive because there's so many accidents and so many cops everywhere. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to drive anywhere because there's so much potential for accidents, because people's aggression is just like, people are feeling really aggressive. They're feeling extraordinarily restless. They are not thinking properly. They are not acting in consciousness. They're not making conscious decisions. So if you are busy, okay, that's fine. And Temperance comes out and reminds us to maintain that level of Zen. Meditation will help you with that. You know, every decision, every word that comes out of your mouth, every interaction that you have with someone should and must be done in consciousness. You know, I did a pretty soul-bearing audio recording, which probably many of you watched or listened to. But before I published that, I really asked myself what the purpose of this was. Knowing what the astrological environment was, knowing what I was going through, knowing that it was a period of healing for me. You know, and I sat on that recording actually for a couple of days, and knowing that I might not want to publish that. And that was a big deal for me, but more so, it wasn't really for you, you know, it was for me. It's a part of my process, and if it helps someone in their process, then that's wonderful, even if it only helped one person. And yet people are going to be doing those kinds of things and just letting things fall out of their mouths and not really considering the consequences of those things, and not just the effects on other people in the third dimension, but, you know, the energetic consequences as well, how that permeates throughout the universe. Because as we know, the minute a thought enters into our mind, a feeling comes into our hearts, or words come out of our mouth, it is written into the records of the universe for time and all eternity. It is done. What's done is done, right? That's the saying. And people that aren't acting in consciousness of that can be making big mistakes and really changing the course of their lives. And there can be regrets, or people that are like super in their truth and saying, nope, this is my truth. This is the desire of my soul. And I'm going to just go for it, because this desire wouldn't exist without some kind of purpose. Those are the people that are going to be launched rapidly into this huge new chapter of their lives. Huge. I feel like people are opening these gigantic castle doors, right? Those big wooden doors that I often describe that kind of go over the moat of the castle, right? And it's just like gigantic, heavy doors opening, and things are going to be really changing really fast. And those who are in truth, they'll become more spiritualized, they'll become more conscious, they'll become more humanitarian driven, they'll become more caring, more all of the good things, higher vibrations, you know. We get the 7 of coins, 5 of coins reversed, and let's talk about justice in a minute. There is no risk not worth taking, 5 of coins reversed. It's time for us to stop deliberating. Time for us to stop the wishy-washy, not sure, fear-based way of living. I think we are often so concerned about what we have to lose that we lose sight of what we have to gain. Jupiter is making his way into Sagittarius. It's coming back home for the first time in a really long time since it was in Pisces. I don't even know how many years ago, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago maybe. And for the first time, we're going to feel the wave of abundance coming toward us if we take advantage of it. We're going to feel the sense of relief. And 2019 has an ability to completely reshape the course of our future, because we have the Saturn working its way into conjunction with Pluto in Capricorn, the first time in 500 years that this has happened, which is the time when Martin Luther began the Protestant Revolution against the Catholic Church. And when we think of that kind of a revolution, that kind of anti-system sort of thing, we realize the magnitude, we realize of what that can mean for us in our own personal lives, where we can leave the scarcity behind, we can leave the sadness, we can leave the emptiness, or that feeling of just not being good enough or not deserving things, or whatever is plaguing you, because we all have our things that plague us. We don't need to be stuck there anymore. We have the universal support to truly embrace abundance. And as justice comes into play, it's the natural order. It's the way it has to be. The natural order of the universal energetic environment. I was having a conversation with a girl yesterday. She works in the office. She just started. She's very, I actually pulled up her chart. Everyone was gone in the office yesterday. And so I spent time with her because she's really into my tarot card reading. She's like, I love it. It's so, I really want to learn, and I want to learn astrology. And so I pulled up her chart, and we talked a lot about her and really what she's going through, and with her mom and her relationship with her parents and stuff like that. And she has 5 planets in Cancer in the 9th house. Yeah, 5 planets. And she has a Pisces moon, and she's got Jupiter and Saturn conjunct in the 8th house. So she has so much of this watery, truth-seeking, wisdom-seeking kind of stuff. And I was looking at her, and I was like, you truly are the epitome of the new wave of souls that is coming into the world to really change the world. Like, she's just wired for spirituality, and her drive and her desire toward that, this kind of inner rebel, anti-structure, anti-system, anti-money kind of thing, is just like, here she is. And yet she's still sort of trapped. Her parents are like, no, you got to get a job. You have to make money. You have to pay. Like, if you want Netflix, you have to pay for Netflix, kind of thing. And just really forcing and shoving that system stuff down her throat. And she's so incredibly unhappy. And then it causes problems in the family because she's unhappy, that kind of thing. And I told her, and I said, look, this is your life. And first of all, don't ever let the fear of being broke really stop you from going after what it is you're going, because money always finds a way. It's just an energy. It just comes in, it comes out. It's not a big deal. If you have some, great. If you don't have some, great. It doesn't really matter. You can always find a way. And I said, I kind of put the pressure on her. I was like, look, you are kind of at the forefront of this sort of second coming, or this Christ consciousness awakening that's going on in the world. And it's time for that kind of stuff to really hit the world really hard and heavy. And souls like her, souls like that, need the opportunity, or need the kind of the jump start, or the support from people who have been on the earth a little bit longer than she has, to encourage her to pursue a career or a life of spirituality. And we need to do that for ourselves as well, because that's what this card is really saying. Like, now's the time. Now is the time to live in truth. Now is the time to pursue our spiritual goals. Now is the time for us to play our part in the role of this new earth that people keep talking about. This new way of earthly existence. And there's no excuses anymore. There's no excuses for us to allow the things that make us unhappy to continue to make us unhappy. Now is the time for us to make those changes, as difficult as those changes may be. And a lot of us are really going to be required to get over our fears once and for all. Get over the things that are really holding us back. And to truly open up. To truly open up. Because I suspect that if you were to sit there with yourself, and this isn't going to apply to everybody, it applies to me. But if you were sitting there and you were doing a meditation, you were really asking yourself, am I truly open? I would say about 90% of you would be like, no, I'm not. Because I have feelings of insecurity, because I have feelings of failure, a fear of failure. I have a fear of the way I'm going to affect someone else's life. I have a fear of not having the money that I want to do to pursue the things I want to pursue. And there's going to be a laundry list of things. And it's important for us to put that laundry list of things in its place, which is below our soul's desire, right? Because we came into this world with desires for specific reasons. A desire plays an important role in accomplishment. Without desire, we wouldn't accomplish stuff, And so it's time. That's what this eclipse season was all about. Like, it's time. It's preparing us for something. It's preparing us for something huge. And it's undeniable. You know, I'm not going to get into like, you know, people are saying like, okay, well, in 2023, 2024, there's going to be this potential for, you know, it was supposed to be in 2012. Like, I'm not going to say the world is going to end. I'm not going to say that there's going to be a huge financial crash. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to say any of that. I'm not going to make any predictions whatsoever of the course of the world, the course of humanity. Of course, I'm not privy to that information. However, I think it is our job and our duty to live every single day as though the end of the world was tomorrow, or the end of our life was tomorrow. And the more that we can lead by example, by not living in fear, the more and more people are going to feel okay with not living in fear. And we do need a wave of examples. You know, we do need a wave of people that are doing it. You know, I follow this model on Instagram, and I've mentioned him before because he always really stuck out at me. No, I mean, he's attractive, you know, he's way young. Like, it's not like that. It's like you know, he lives a life as though he's an extremely old soul, and he just goes for it, right? He's just completely, totally, authentically himself from what I can see. And I really love when he posts, his name's Jay Alvarez. He's really famous. Probably a lot of you guys know who he is. And if you want to follow him, I recommend it, not because of like his pictures or anything like that, but because when he writes stuff, he's so advanced spiritually. And I even look at that, I'm like, damn, I wish I was 20 years old and just like knowing this kind of stuff. You know, you can tell that he's remembering this kind of stuff, the answers and the secrets to the universe. He's remembering all of that at such an incredibly young age, and he's an incredible example in many ways for people. It's almost as though he's this really old soul, like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th dimension, coming into the 3rd dimension just to have a good time. But he already has, you know, this very Dalai Lama, Buddha kind of way about him, just in his writings, his understanding of like this simulation or this projection of the earth, and how this isn't even real and that kind of thing. And I get so excited when I see youth, people who are in their teens and their early 20s, who are living this way and preaching to the world, to millions of people, and opening their eyes. Like, you can see the awakening of this younger generation and how they're impacting each other. It's really a really cool thing. And now is the time for us to all be doing that. People who are conscious, people who are aware. Okay. Let's see. Page of Wands, 10 of Swords reversed, and 10 of Wands. Yeah. There is work ahead of us, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's not going to be easy. The fact of the matter is, though, is that it's time for us to stop being afraid of the work. It's time for us to stop being the bad guy, or it's time for us to stop being afraid of anything, right? He's fearless. I often associate him with Sagittarius. You guys know that. My pages are like my mutable signs. They're go-getters, they're optimistic, they have their heads up, they're genuine, they're real, they're true, and they just go for it. They just go for it. Okay. I talked a little bit about the astrology stuff. I do want to talk a little bit about a little bit more, because we do have Venus in Libra now. She entered Libra on the 6th of August. And she's really putting a highlight on relationships. And actually, I'm going to be making a separate video after this one. I'll probably publish them both today. I'm going to be doing love readings, but not kind of the typical, the way I do like my monthly readings, just kind of short little ones. As we follow Venus and her travels through the zodiac, she's going to be doing a retrograde between Scorpio and Libra this year. And so she's working her way into the shadow phase. And relationships are going to be a significant highlight for us over the next couple of months. How we interact with other people and how we see ourselves through the eyes of other people and how we see them in us. And it's going to be a good time to rectify the things that we don't like. Now that seems like I'm just repeating myself. Hold on. I'm trying to come up with a different way of saying it. It's time for us to make the internal changes. Like I said in the beginning, if you want things to change, you have to change. You can't just want the change. It's not enough. You have to take the steps. And I think it is time for us to really ask ourselves, especially for people who are in business partnerships and people who are in romantic partnerships, to really ask yourself, how conscious of a relationship are you in? How conscious, how aware are you? How open are these relationships? Because as Venus makes her way into Scorpio, there's potential and opportunity for a lot of secrets to come out, a lot of our deepest, darkest desires to come out. There's potential for the things that we have been really, really repressing to come out. That's why she's doing a retrograde in that sign, right? And so it's time for us to open Pandora's box, but in the most conscious and meaningful way, where if things are bothering you, if you're having feelings for someone else, if you are straying in any kind of way, and you are not completely all in it, now is the time for you to really ask yourself what to do about that. What do you do about it? Do you tell the person? Some of you are going to tell the person what you're really thinking for the first time in a long time. What are you really thinking? What are you really feeling? What do you really want? And it is going to change the course of your partnerships. And it is an opportunity for you to live in truth with someone else. And when you combine energy, like with two people, your power becomes that much greater. It becomes magnified. It becomes amplified. And if you guys can get on the same page, if you can agree to say, okay, I'm willing to get hurt. If there's something hurtful that needs to be said, I'm willing to get hurt and to work through that pain with you. And not to say that everyone has been betrayed, not to say that everyone is, doing anything bad behind anyone's back. It's not that that's for everybody. But the stars are really not going to allow us to keep things inside anymore. It's going to open up the floodgates, and we're going to have to deal with the flood. But once it's dealt with, and once we work our way through, the relationship becomes so much more real and so much more authentic. And through truth and authenticity, our love can really blossom for the first time in a really, really long time. And that's what Scorpio is all about. Authenticity. That's what Scorpio is about. It's about truth. And for any of you who are no longer living in, or who aren't living in truth, you're going to feel this sense of relief, but you have to go through the hard stuff to get to the relief. You have to let it out. So I'm going to be doing some Venus readings because I think that her sort of movements in the next few months is going to be really important. And it is going to be, again, it's going to be a precursor to a lot of the Saturn-Pluto buildup that's happening in January 2020. There's going to be foresight, right? Like the little window, we're going to see little things that are coming up and coming out. Why do I say that? Well, Jupiter is going to be leaving Scorpio. Venus is going to be entering it, doing a retrograde there. Okay, and then because Pluto is the ruling planet of Scorpio, that's why I'm saying all of that, okay? I'm not just making it up. And then we've got Uranus on the other side there too. So let's not forget that. This retrograde is going to be happening in an opposition with Uranus. Back and forth across between Scorpio, Libra. Okay. Okay. I had to turn off my camera actually because I found myself babbling and I wasn't making coherent sentences. So, someone a couple of weeks ago had posted on my channel, why don't you talk about nutrition? Why don't you talk about your diet and talk about how diet and nutrition plays a part in spirituality? For those of you who know me know that I am a vegan. However, I'm not super strict. First of all, I don't eat any meat. I would say I toggle between veganism and vegetarianism based on my environment. I'm here in Vegas. I can go to Whole Foods. I have absolutely everything that I would want. So yes, I'm vegan, right? But when I was in Serbia, yes, it was not a problem. When I was in Montenegro, it was a little bit more difficult. So I did eat like bread, right? There's eggs in there, dairy in there. I did eat some eggs once in a while too as well. So, I mean, it's not like I'm not the poster child for veganism by any stretch of the imagination. However, I do want to talk about really what role that plays in terms of how we actually end up living a more conscious life from a holistic perspective. I'm having a hard time deciding of really where to start. A couple of months ago, on one of my Facebook groups that I follow, there was this woman who posted something and she was so like aggressive with this view. And she said, essentially, I don't think that eating meat makes you less spiritual. Eating meat has nothing to do with being spiritual. So I had to really sit with that because in a way, I don't really know if it does either. But the consumption of meat is a lot different than the acquisition of the meat and where that meat really comes from and the universal implications of those actions that were taken in order to acquire the meat. Not necessarily about the eating of the meat itself. And while I could tell you about the health kind of story that I have in terms of how sick I was and then converting to being going to a vegan diet and then like miraculously feeling amazing back to 100%. I mean, I could go down that road and tell you all of that. But I want to approach it from a spirituality standpoint. Because that's what this platform is, that's what my YouTube channel is, or it's what it's becoming. And any time that there is a life, especially a kind of life that we relate to, right? Like we see a tree, we see a plant, and we understand that that is an entity, we understand that it is also alive, and we also understand that it is a part of this greater scheme, this greater spectrum, and it is just as much a part of us as we are a part of it. But there is a free will component with animals, and some people argue with plants, and I'm going to talk about the breatharians too. But for the sake of argument, let's just say that there is a difference between the kind of life between plants and animals. And if you are someone that goes to the grocery store and buys the meat, but you are also someone that cannot watch the slaughterhouse videos on YouTube, you are living a life of hypocrisy. How is it that you can contribute to something but then avoid the thing that you are in fact contributing to? I think any one of us watching this video would agree that the slaughterhouses, the meat industry in general, is one of an extreme evil. The fear and the sadness and the poor, terrible living conditions that these animals are forced to live in, these teeny tiny cages, the abuse, the drugs, the hormones, all of the extremely unnatural processes that are involved, and the essence of slavery as well. We turn our backs on the fact that this is a case of extreme genocide as well. And it's, I don't know how else to describe it. The word unfortunate is the only word coming to my mind, but it's so unfortunate that people in the spiritual community are not looking at it from a holistic perspective. You claim to be spiritual, and yet you are taking your time, energy, which is what you use to get money, taking that money and contributing it to an evil thing, an evil existence in the world. And there is a reason why the Dalai Lama and the Buddhist monks are vegetarian and vegan. Like, there's a reason why. And one could argue that you do not really have a true appreciation for life, your own life, until you really consider the life of someone else. And that someone else doesn't necessarily have to be a human being. And I could go on and on and on about the hypocrisy of like people freaking out about the mistreatment of dogs in their neighbor's yard. They freak out about the conditions. Oh my God, that dog does not have water. It is sitting in the sun. It is 100 degrees outside. This is animal abuse. And then they drive by the slaughterhouse every single day and don't even consider what's going on there. And there's tons of information. There's tons of documentaries out there. Like, this information is full on available to anyone who wants to find it. And yet people continue to remain in ignorance. There was this man, his name's Mark Passio. I love Mark Passio if you're familiar with him. I really relate to his Leo energy. I really enjoy the power with which he gives his presentations. I don't necessarily agree with everything, but he does always make a point to discuss and to examine the roots of the words that he uses. And, you know, he breaks things down a lot. And one of the word ignorance that he always says, he's like, we need to really say it like what it is. It's not, we shouldn't be pronouncing it ignorance. We should be pronouncing it ignorance. Because that's really what it is. It's a choice to ignore something. It's a choice to turn our heads, to turn our backs to something that is so horrific in nature. And we just pretend like it does not exist. That is the true essence of ignorance, right? We have the information, we don't, act upon it. That's why the vegan movement is taking such a hold, and it's growing so fast. Not because people are like, don't eat meat, don't eat meat. It's like, no, what's going on in this industry is absolutely wrong. Not to mention the environmental impacts that it has. I mean, there's so many other things I'm not even touching on, right? I mean, contributing to such a low vibrational thing does impact your ability to grow and to ascend. When you're aligning with truth, I think that becoming a vegetarian at the least is very much a part of that. It's very much a part of the fast track toward higher vibrations. And every time, so I was on this airplane, I was flying to Nice a couple weeks ago, and I had been bumped up to first class. Okay, it was like a premium economy, whatever. It was like a teeny tiny plane. But on this kind of first premium area of the plane, they gave meals. And they put down in front of me a plate that had the most disgusting looking chicken and salami and turkey breast. And I just sat there horrified that was literally 3 dead animals that had to be killed in order for me to have this disgusting shitty meal on like a 2-hour flight? Like, how do people not consider what goes into that? Not to mention all the time and resources that it took for that animal to be born, that animal to be fed, that animal to be housed, that animal to be killed and processed and shipped and, you know, stored in the freezer and then processed into this. God, the meal was so horrible. How do people not consider that? And yet people just shovel it into their mouth without even a second thought. And they consider themselves to be good people. They consider themselves to be, you know, good citizens or whatever. I do feel like there is a considerable lack of awareness or lack of just, well, no, that's not even a thing. I'm not even going to say that. But like, but yeah. Just horrified that there were 3 dead and actually that was the thing too. I was like, should I eat this meal to honor these animals? Because if at least I'm not like the poor things, at least someone should get something out of it, but now it's just getting tossed in the trash. So it doesn't even, it's like a death for nothing. And there was that real like part of me that's like, I should eat this, not because I agree with, you know, but because at least there would be some honor in the life of those animals. At least something would have come out of it, you know? And when we convert that kind of way of thinking into everything, unfortunately we are in a world where we have to put so much energy and effort in terms of thinking about things from a holistic perspective. You know, when you go and buy your new cell phone or your new car, you know, I've talked about the Congo before. You know, you don't just go and buy a new car because it's got the features that you like or it's the right kind of make and model or the brand or whatever. You know, you go and you look at this new car and you're like, okay, well, where did this stuff come from? How did this car end up in front of me? How did this cell phone, this computer end up in front of me? And you think of the components, you think of the plastics that are made, you think of the metals that are processed and mined, and you have to think of, you know, all the little teeny tiny trinkets and the fuel that is used to ship things back and forth and the just the, like, I think of the gold and the manganese and the cobalt because I'm just kind of doing a Congo thing and like pretty much everything we touch has these precious metals in them, and those precious metals come from a place where, you know, women are being raped and then shunned away from their villages because they were raped or victims of war crimes. There are illegitimate children being born. There are people who are afraid to go into the field to eat because of the threat of being killed, because you have these rebels coming in and just raping the land and wanting the land and claiming certain things, and people, the slavery and the abuse. And I mean, that's the real cost. Like, you go and you say, okay, my iPhone's going to be $1,000, but it's so much greater than that. And the fact that we have that information available, you know, we have movies like Blood Diamond coming out with Leonardo DiCaprio, like we know what goes into it, and yet we continually allow these industries to exist. And by not standing up and talking about it, by not standing up and educating people about it, we are contributing to the problem. When we do not take action, we are then contributing to the evil act. And I think it's time for people to really almost, and this is probably not the best way to say this, but like, it's time for people like me to almost kind of be mean to people, right? In a loving way, like tough love kind of way, and being like, how are you not considering what had to go on and what had to happen in order for El Pollo Loco to show up on your table? I say El Pollo Loco because there was a chicken experience that I had a few months ago as well, like where this guy I was dating came home with all this El Pollo Loco, and I and his daughter are both vegan, and we were just like, oh my God, there's all this chicken. It was so grotesque and so terrible, but but there should be some kind of mocking almost that needs to happen, right? Because the vegans and vegetarians have been so mocked, if anyone was in the 60s and 70s and you were a vegetarian or a vegan, like, you were made fun of. It was a weird thing. You were such an outcast. It was so, hippie style or whatever. But now the pages are really turning, and people who are taking on the vegan vegetarian lifestyle are going to start kind of needing to do that to get the other people to kind of reconsider what they're doing too. And that does need to occur in all industries. I'm talking about the meat industry, but there's so many other avenues as well. Your clothing, and when I was telling someone the other day, I was like, I don't really go shopping anymore because I'm just like, I don't know where this stuff comes from. I don't know what the environmental impact it has, because every time you wash your clothes, these kind of plastics and microfibers are getting washed into the ocean, or they're getting washed into certain parts of the environment. They're just blowing away in the wind or whatever, these plastics, these oils, these really harsh things. And so when you go shopping for clothes, when you go shopping for your makeup, thinking of the animal testing, thinking of all the chemicals that are in there, and when you dispose of your makeup, really what's happening and what's going on. When you purchase paper towels, when you purchase, using plastic bags at the grocery store, it's like, unfortunately, we have a world where we have to think of every single thing in such a profound kind of way. It's not easy for us to live a life that is truly conscious, environmentally friendly, and spiritually friendly as well. Because when you are doing things that are hard, like I even feel guilty driving around in my car because I'm like, oh my God, I'm polluting. I'm using fossil fuels. And you can be really hard on yourself, but you do still have to exist in the world as well. But it's all about moderation. It's all about, okay, I can't change the world today, but I can at least do as much as I can, ride a bike whenever I possibly can, even though it's 120 degrees outside. Probably won't be doing that this summer, but, in the fall and in the winter, yeah, I can do that a little bit more often. So riding a bicycle or, you guys get the idea. And I do think it's important for everything that we do. And one of the things of how the Leo Aquarius eclipse axis affected me was in this way. My impact in the world, my impact of my choices, my impact on the environment. And the Going Green, kind of campaign 20 years ago was such a thing. And now it's, every little thing is trying to get our attention, right? Because we do see this awakening happening. But it's so critical for all of us to stop ignoring what's going on and to start boycotting the industries that are contributing to the absolute evil in the world, the absolute destruction of the environment. I don't know how you're going to have a cell phone without that stuff. I know you guys need cell phones. I know you need to make money. I know you got to do that stuff. I have to do that too. But maybe it's more a question of like, okay, well, now my phone is outdated by one model. Maybe I can wait a couple models and then get a new one, or, really considering how you get from point A to point B. Really considering buying clothes that are cheap and made of plastic, the spandex, all the athletic wear that we wear. Or can we buy one that's made of hemp, from a company that is environmentally responsible, that might be a little bit more expensive? Buying some other kind of dairy alternative. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive and maybe it doesn't taste as good or, whatever, but at least you're not contributing to the abuse of animals. At least you're not contributing to this is just the evil and just the absolute abuse that's going on with that kind of thing. And even for myself, every time I hop on an airplane, I'm like, oh man, all the jet fuel and all the stuff. And just, I do feel, it's like a feeling of guilt all the time. But yeah, been a big thing for me the past couple of years. And as we're closing out this eclipse axis, we're closing out, the nodes are transitioning, we're finishing that up. It was something that I did want to talk about, not just from the nutritional standpoint, but from the spiritual standpoint. And when we are taking care of the earth, when we are taking care of other souls, when we are taking care of the existence and the well-being of all, we are then helping ourselves to reach that higher vibration, to qualify for true ascension. I think all of the ultra spiritual people that I've ever met, they're all vegan or vegetarian, every single one of them. It's such a huge part of it. And I did talk about the breatharians. Do you guys know what that is? The breatharians is kind of this movement where they claim that as energetic entities, because that's all we are, we're just energy, that's it. As energetic entities, we are capable of attaining all the energy that we need from just the sun. So they do the sun gazing every morning. That's like such a thing. And eventually they say that you can get to a point where you don't even need to consume any food or any water, where you've transformed yourself so much and you're so aware of who and what you actually are that mentally you can turn off this need for consumption. And then there's that argument, well, why do we have the digestive tract? Why do we have a stomach? Why do we have the ability to eat and swallow? And some people say, well, genetically that was, to create a dependency, to create some kind of a dependency because we were a slave race to begin with, kind of thing, and we needed to depend on the land or whatever. I don't really know about any of that, but there is that idea. And as, someone who's thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. We are just energy. That's it. So whether the energy we get is from the food or whether the energy we get is from the sun or from other kinds of resources is possible. And I've heard and I've done research on these breatharians, and there are definitely people who say that it can be done, because even the consuming of plants is also kind of considered the same kind of thing. Yeah. Been feeling very deep. I'm ready for Virgo season. I don't know about you guys. I feel like Leo season, I pulled out these cards. I feel like Leo season has been all about this. Reshaping the world, looking at the world, visualizing how we want our individual world to be. It's about knowing where we're going. And then we come into Virgo season and it's about making it happen. Putting our head down and doing the work, making the tough choices. And start living that life of truth. Start living that life that is in alignment with the desire of the soul. That's kind of what we're heading into. We're being forced into making it happen. And I think for many of us, that's a sense of relief. Like, oh, thank God it's finally happening. Thank God I'm finally going to find this happiness, and I'm going to find this sense of release, and I'm going to be able to, eject myself from things that I wasn't happy in. And, that's really what this is all about. And Virgo season is about taking those steps toward making, toward that self-perfection. It's about taking the logical steps. So we're headed into a really, really great time. I know I'm excited about it. And yeah, still a lot to think about. All right, you guys, I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.